Welcome back to the XCEL podcast. Today we have another great guest, Michael Weiman. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. This has actually kind of been in the making we tried this 6 or 7 months ago.
Uh-huh.
I failed miserably. Luckily, we have somebody else helping us today.
Yeah.
His name is Jared. He's a pretty cool dude. So we've been trying to get this done for 6 months. I am not technologically savvy at all, but it's good to have you on. It's a way overdue. So real quick, you came on board with us here at XCEL July 5th, if it was your very first day, if I recall.
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. You're a Quincy guy. Went away for a while, now you're back. But tell us who you are, family, all that kind of stuff, all the good stuff people want to know.
Yeah, so Michael Weiman, like you said. Grew up here in Quincy, went to school here in Quincy. My wife, she's a local. She also grew up out in Liberty area, graduate from Payson. So we're both from the area. Love the area, love Quincy. Went away for about 9, almost 10 years.
Yeah.
Lived in Kansas City for the past 9 to 10 years. Really enjoyed our time out there. But
So are you a Chiefs fan?
Yes, I am. But
Okay.
I have 2 teams, but they are definitely my AFC team for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, huge fan.
Okay.
But yeah, being out in Kansas City, we grew up, got an opportunity to work with a lot of great people, and then we had 2 kids, and it was time to come back home. So
Yeah.
we're blessed to be back. We're very happy to be back to the area, and it's kind of my story.
It's interesting how similar our stories are.
Yeah.
Because my wife and I traveled, we lived in different places, and you have kids, it changes you, right? But not to mention, I mean, you talked to me personally about how much this community has meant to you. How does it feel to be back? I mean, you probably see a lot of people that you haven't seen in a long time. Do you get free time now? Because everybody was coming over to your house every day. So do you have some free time?
Yeah, you bet. I mean, that's part of the reason we wanted to be back. We want to see these people. These are the people we want to be surrounded by. We love this community. This community means the world to myself and my family. They've always picked us up when we've had our tough days, and they mean a lot to me, and I never forgot that. So my wife and I were both interested in potentially getting back, and once it was an opportunity, we jumped on it.
It happened. I never thought I would say this. I never thought that a Carthage Blue Boy would like a Q&D Raider, but hey, Michael's a pretty solid human being. That was one of the things that, coming on board as a physical therapist, we knew the attributes that we wanted in that person, and you knocked him out of the park. And I'm not just saying that because everybody's watching. But you've been a PT now for almost 10 years. I mean, that's crazy. We sat in a physics class at Western Illinois University in Macomb, Illinois. I don't know about you, but I wanted to just leave every day. That was not an enjoyable experience. But we've kind of had a similar path here, and it's really cool to see that we're in the same spot now. Similar families, everything else. And so talk about PT experience. You've been a PT now for 10 years, obviously most of it in Kansas City. Where'd you go to school at?
Yeah, so I went to school at Washington University in St. Louis.
Okay.
Graduated from Western, so that's where we both went, which is what got us past the Carthage Q&D issue. Yeah. So that helped. But
it was a good bridge.
Yeah, it was a good bridge. And then, just been a PT for 9, almost 10 years now. Yeah. So been pretty much my whole career has been out in Kansas City before coming back here. But
outpatient.
All outpatient. Yeah. Always been outpatient orthopedics.
Yeah.
So just a huge variety, but all outpatient orthopedics. It's the profession's changed. I mean, it's all for good, I would say, for the most part. But I think opportunities. I think the CEUs have changed dramatically, which I think has been helpful. I think you're seeing changes in terms of what we can do and things that we're seeing nowadays, and I think it's all for good. So I'm excited for the future.
I agree. I've seen people be more open and receptive to seeing a physical therapist. I remember being in one of my good buddies' houses. It was right when I graduated from PT school, so 2014, 10 years ago. And his father had just had elbow surgery. And he's like, man, PT is expensive, and he's not wrong. But the cool thing about it, though, is I think that was kind of the main sentiment that I got when I was out of school, was that PT is expensive. But people have come around to say, hey, there's actually a lot of value being produced here. It's not just going in and doing exercises for 5 or 10 minutes.
Right.
So I want you to talk about that for a minute, because how do you feel you separate yourself? How are you different and then I'm going to answer on the back end too. So no pressure, but I want you to answer that first. How do you feel Michael Weiman is different than most PTs out there?
Well, I think hopefully I can provide some different options to this community. So I'm level 2 dry needling certified.
It's a big deal.
So we can do dry needling here.
We'll do a podcast episode on that, just on that alone. So.
You bet. Yep. And then we do a fair amount of blood flow restriction training,
Yeah.
which is something we do that's maybe a little bit different. IASTM, do a fair amount of soft tissue with the instrument assist. Just a wide variety. I think we see a lot of orthopedics. I've had an experience in orthopedics. That's pretty much my whole career. So that's kind of where I focus most of my time on, my efforts on, and so hopefully.
You're also fantastic with athletes. I think, and Michael's one of the most humble guys I know, and I'm not just saying that, but I think the patient, almost every single time that I've seen anyway, they have a good experience. You're talking to them, you're communicating with them. PT does not have to stand for pain and torture. I've said that 100 times on this podcast. But you give them a good experience, number one. So I'm gonna answer on the back end now. Okay, your manual techniques are second to none in my opinion. You obviously bring a different level of experience too, like I said, with athletes, with dry needling, blood flow restriction, and being able to. The thing I've been most impressed about with you is progression. Every time that patient comes in, we have something new to work on. It might not be a drastic change. I'm thinking of a young athlete we've been working with, a softball player. She came into us post-surgical, significant damage in the shoulder. But that surgeon is very conservative with how we can progress them. And you follow that to a T. Nonetheless, though, she had something to improve upon every single time she came in here. And she was challenged, right? So that's personally what I've seen, not only directly working with you, but also from afar. And I've heard that sentiment from patients too. So what drew you to XCEL? And I said this to you before we hit the record button. I don't want this to be XCEL's the best thing ever. XCEL is, the best thing since sliced bread. I want this to be real. I want it to be what ultimately drew Michael back here, because you had multiple opportunities. So what was it?
So a couple things I think that stood out. So number one, I think that individual time with the patient's important.
Yeah.
I think that's critical. To get to the bottom of what's going on with your patient in front of you, and not only do I want to assess them, but we're also going to get to the bottom in terms of who they are as a person.
Yeah.
Because it's prudent to understand more than just physically what they're doing. It may be work-related stuff. It may be, just the other day we were talking with a patient. It took us a long time to figure out what he was doing differently over the past couple months, and hopefully the changes that we made will make a difference for him. But it wasn't until we got into that deeper conversation about what was going on, work-wise, movement-wise. All of a sudden, this changed around this time, or what was different during that time. You got to have time to be able to dig. So that one-on-one time was prudent for me.
Yeah.
I think number two, a big thing was downstairs. Downstairs was a great draw. Just having the ability to have access to a fully staffed gym.
Yeah.
And people who are very talented, and you have the opportunity to brainstorm with strength and conditioning coaches. The ultimate goal is to get your patients better, and however it takes to get them there, and the availability of people to brainstorm with was critical. So you can talk to the people downstairs and say, hey, they're at this state of we need to transition to something a little bit more than what I can give them now, and their ability to just go downstairs, but still pop up if they need something.
Right.
You still are there if they need something. They feel comfortable with that.
There's a lot of value in that. Yeah.
For long-term health, I think that was critical.
Yeah.
But also being surrounded by the clinicians. There's some special clinicians here. You got some. It's unique to have a practice where you have people with this much experience, with this much diversity of what they can provide.
Yeah.
So when you're working with patients and not having those silos, I always feel like this is like an episode of Cheers every day. When we come in, it's just talk. Everybody talks to each other.
Yeah.
You kind of know what's going on with everybody. The clinic is small enough to where you can do that. And as we were talking, there may be a situation where I don't feel like I have the tools to help what you need. And if that's the case, I need somebody else to see what else we can do, because I don't care what it takes to get there. We need to find a way to get you there.
Right.
And if that's going to be with Mitch, or if that's going to be with KJ or Brian or whoever else, I think that's important to know that you have people there with the experience, with different tools. So I think iron sharpens iron, and I think it's good to be surrounded by that.
That's been really cool to see. And I'll give KJ Whitaker credit for this particular part, but we have our, is it once a month or once every couple of weeks, depending on the schedule. We do sharpen our skills, right? We over a lunch break, we have for an hour. We go through different skills. When we got our blood flow restriction new equipment, we had a whole session on that. I need to go through it again. I need to be better at it. But that's been really cool to see, because I think, number one, you've made us better. That's been cool to see, is that I think KJ and Brian, they've been in this community for a long time. Mitch has now for 5 or 6 years as well, from a PT perspective. But we've all gotten better because of Michael Weiman. That's been pretty cool to see. And then to be able to, like you say, kick ideas off of each other and say, what am I missing here? Because I ask my wife. I'm not perfect, okay? she can tell you for sure. And
debatable.
And yeah, and none of us are. So I agree with you. That's been pretty cool to see that we've got that kind of environment. And I think for the most part, the patients see that. And I think they appreciate that. Hey, maybe Michael needs a little bit of help here, or maybe Riley does, or somebody else. They like to have multiple sets of eyes on them. So I would be remiss if I did not ask you about your beard. What is the story behind this glorious full beard? Because your wife likes it.
That's it.
That's the only reason.
That's the story.
Okay. So I need to ask you about some beard care at some point. So.
Yeah, you bet. My wife likes it, so I have it.
Yeah. Hey, I get it. I look like a 5-year-old if I take this thing off. So that's why I've got my beard. If I want to stay married. I'm kidding, Steph.
That's right.
But it's cool because we do have fun here. And probably there are times when we have a little too much fun. But, we've had the ability to have some really good days here, partly because of you. And we've got a great team. One of the last things I want to touch on, how do you see PT changing? How are we still relevant in 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now?
It's a great question. I think continued expansion of our skills. First off, I think over the years you see continuous change. You can talk to KJ and Brian, and they'll tell you exactly, what they learned at that time and how it's changing over the years. I think the addition of dry needling, I think the addition of BFR, I think the addition of the research, I think the research expansion has really helped understand why we're doing what we're doing. And then once you start seeing little things, so like for instance with BFR, some of the things that you're seeing with that and in terms of analgesic responses and growth factor, just in general, maybe we didn't know immediately what was all happening, but now the research is getting so good that you're starting to see other reasons why people are healing.
Yeah.
So now how do you add in other things to that to maybe get that person to the next step, right? You're starting to see maybe more addition of loading downstairs, for instance. Quicker recoveries are changing,
big
right?
Deal.
Total knees nowadays. When I first started, I wouldn't see them for a couple weeks, and now I'm seeing them post-op one day.
Day after, right?
And you're seeing changes. And I think same with a lot of surgeries. I think our protocols are changing dramatically. And I think that's all just research driven. So I think in general, I think the research expansion has helped us understand more, but has also allowed us to maybe change a little bit of our thought process.
Yeah.
Even dry needling. I think the dry needling, you see it starting to get more and more popular, and I think when you understand why you're utilizing it, what can we add to that to help with our tissues and an expansion of how people are going to heal quicker?
Yeah.
Does that go down another route? Does that go down towards more of a nutrition conversation? Do we go down the road of some other options? I think you're going to see continuous expansion of that as the research continues to come out.
Well, and I think my hope that 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now is that we have even greater access to people than what we do now. Whether that's through marketing channels like this, or if it's simply more, I hate to use the word appreciation, but more open-mindedness towards what physical therapy can do for people. I tell people all the time, treat us kind of like we're a dentist. You should be coming in here, proactively. Even if you've been discharged from therapy in July, come back one more time during the year just for a free consultation with us, because we might be able to curtail some things before they actually happen. That's where I think we need to shift as a profession, because right now we are so, pardon my French, hell-bent on treating people after something bad has already happened. Why don't we get to them on the front? And the answer has always been this, right? I think that's how the model has got to change. I think we're going to be able to do that here with people such as yourself. So, Michael, just as we wrap up today, one of the last things I want people to hear this, what conditions do you treat? What do you feel good treating? From my estimation, you can treat just about anything, okay? Obviously, you're in the orthopedic space, but somebody has back pain. Can they come to you? Shoulder pain, post-op. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think a broad variety of whatever orthopedic injuries or ailments that you'll run into. So anything lower extremity, upper extremity, necks, backs, I feel very comfortable with. I think shoulder injuries I really enjoy. Baseball players, softball players, played baseball in college, and I enjoy that. I'm drawn to it. It's a complicated joint, and I like the challenge. So I do like seeing those elbows, shoulders, arms, upper extremity care. Mid-season care, I think, for baseball players, I really enjoy. But anything, I enjoy treating all the above. I do a lot of knees, did a lot of hips in Kansas City. I've treated a lot of those variations, athletes, geriatrics, anywhere in between. So I feel I enjoy treating everything, really. Yeah.
So please, if you're listening to this, hear Michael on that. He can help just about anything, okay? But he's very specific, too, on your treatment sessions. It's not just a one-size-fits-all. So I appreciate you coming on board, not only here to the podcast, here at our team. You've made us better. And we're going to have you back on for multiple things so people can continue to learn. So thanks for listening. Thanks again.
Thank you.